I want you to think about the last time you left your dog alone. You grabbed your keys, maybe you said goodbye, you probably felt a little bit guilty, and then you got on with your day. But here's what I want you to really sit with. From the moment that door shut, you have absolutely no idea what happened on the other side of it. And in my experience as a canine behaviorist with a master's degree in clinical animal behavior, most owners, when they finally find out, whether that's through a camera, through a neighbor, or through the state of their kitchen when they got back, are genuinely shocked. Because what dogs actually do when we leave, and more importantly, what they actually feel, is so far from what most people assume that it is, and it changes everything about how you should be managing your dog's life. The first thing that we have to understand is that dogs are not small, furry humans who are fine having a bit of alone time with Netflix on in the background. Dogs are a social species. They are wired at a biological level to exist within a social group. And when that social group, aka you, disappears, something neurological happens that is genuinely significant. The stress hormone, cortisol, will spike, heart rate will elevate. In many dogs, particularly those who haven't been properly prepared for solitude, what you're seeing in those first 20 to 30 minutes after you leave is often genuinely a psychological stress response. Not a tantrum, not naughtiness, a stress response. And the reason that distinction matters so much is that if you come home and punish the destruction, the chewing, the scratching at the door, you're punishing a dog who was in a state of distress. And you're making the whole thing significantly worse, especially considering that by the time you get home, they've got no idea what you're punishing them for in the first place. So what are dogs actually doing in those hours? Well, research using home cameras and psychological monitoring tells us something really interesting. The vast majority of dogs, once that initial stress period passes, and in well-adjusted dogs it does pass, spend the bulk of their alone time doing very little, resting mostly. Some will patrol, some will look out of windows. They're not spending 6 hours desperately missing you. In a secure dog, alone time genuinely does become just rest time. And that's important because it means that the goal here isn't to feel guilty about leaving your dog. The goal is to make sure your dog is in a psychological state where they can actually access that rest, where their nervous system is calm enough to settle. Because if they can't, if every time you leave the house it's a psychological emergency, that then chronic low-level stress is accumulating day after day, week after week, and that is where the behavior problems have to come from. Now here's where it gets really important, and this is something I talk about with a lot of my clients. The behavior you see when you walk back through the door is data. It's your dog communicating the psychological state that they've been in. A dog who goes absolutely berserk when you get home, I don't mean happy, but I mean like manic, uncontrollable, can't settle, jumping, spinning. That dog has likely been in an elevated arousal state, possibly for a significant portion of the time you were away. The reunion is a release of that tension, not just excitement. Contrast that with a dog who comes to greet you warmly, has a lovely moment with you, and then just kind of goes back to just doing dog things. That's a dog whose alone time was psychologically manageable. And the way you respond to that reunion, whether you escalate the arousal by matching their energy, or whether you bring calm into the situation, is actually training them how to feel about you leaving and then therefore coming home. That's a really powerful lever that most people don't realize that they actually have. The other piece of that I think gets massively overlooked is the role of pre-departure anxiety, because a lot of dogs don't start struggling when you leave. They start struggling when they notice the signals that you're about to leave. You pick up your keys, you put your shoes on, you look at your watch. Your dog has learned very precisely what those signals mean, and so the cortisol starts rising before you've even touched the door handle, which means that by the time you actually leave, they're already in that stressed state. And this is why, in my experience, the dogs that struggle most with alone time aren't just struggling with the alone time itself, they're struggling with the anticipation of it. Now, if you want a free course on building separation confidence and working through some of this practically, I've got a free course linked in the description that covers a lot of this in detail. It's a good place to start if you're noticing any of the signs that we're talking about in today's video. Now, the good news is that this is all workable. A dog's relationship with solitude is not fixed. It's often learned, which means it can be unlearned and it can be relearned. The foundations building a genuinely secure attachment with your dog so that they can trust that you always come back. desensitizing those departure signals so they lose their power, and building alone time up gradually so your dog's nervous system learns through repeated positive experience that being alone is safe. Exercise and mental stimulation before departure will help enormously. A physical and mentally tired dog settles down a lot easier. Now, most people who have a dog struggling with alone time think they have a behavior problem, whereas what we've just learned is that they actually have an emotional regulation problem. And once you understand that distinction, you can start solving the right problem. Your dog isn't trying to just ruin your sofa for the fun of it. Your dog is just trying to cope. And to help them, the most powerful thing that you can do is crate training them properly, teaching them that that is their place to relax, switch off, settle down, decompress, where being alone is a positive experience and one that is nourishing for their nervous system, not one that creates huge amounts of arousal and stress and creates that tension with you leaving. Now, again, in that free course, we always cover crate training at extreme lengths because I do think it is one of the best things that you can do for your dog. So again, that'll be linked in the description box below, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you do. We make tons of videos around all kinds of topics just like this to help you have your perfect canine companion.